Hey everybody, welcome back to round 38 of Inside the Clinch. Eric here, joining you with Johnny for another week of MMA action. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. It's gloomy outside, rainy, but you said after we record this, you're taking me out to get something to eat, so I'm excited for that. I'm starving, but I don't know what I want. You said you don't want sushi. We've been doing a lot of Cape barbecue. It wasn't really good on my stomach the other day, so I am excited about eating right after this, but I just don't know what I want yet.
We'll see how good of a job you do. Maybe we'll get some pasta or some seafood somewhere. Some
All
Italian food
dep-
sounding nice.
it all depends on my performance on this podcast, I'm assuming.
Indeed, it is.
All right, so I'll try my best for you then.
So, guys, we had a stacked weekend of events. We had LFA, we had PFL, we had UFC, we had boxing. So, we hope you guys caught some action at some point over the weekend.
Whether that be in the bedroom or with the UFC, you know what I'm saying?
So, to start off, let's go through the UFC's past event. So Giga Chikadze, Georgia's rising star at featherweight, defeated the legendary Edson Barboza via TKO in the third round. In my opinion, Giga is probably one of the highest level strikers in the organization, if not the sport overall. I think because the featherweight division is so stacked and because he's not from America, I feel like he's been flying a bit under the radar. The dude's an amazing prospect. He called out Max Holloway afterwards, which I think is an amazing matchup. There was some things I saw on Instagram over this past couple of days that a matchup with him and Calvin Kattar would be great, and I think that's an exciting matchup as well. But the dude is a stud. He's very young in his career, and he only looks like he's going up from here. You know what I mean? The guy is definitely a potential title contender.
Yeah, as you said, Giga now 7-0 in the UFC, undefeated in the UFC. He came in with a loss in Dana White's Contender Series, but after that, 7 straight wins. As you said, one of the best strikers in the UFC. But it was a close fight with Edson Barboza. Round one and two were pretty close. I would probably give them to Giga, but he got it done in the third round. He does look phenomenal, man, and there are holes in his game. Obviously, he's he came into the sport a little bit late. He was a kickboxer for a while, so he did pick up grappling a little bit later in his career. So I'm not sure how he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna ever become the champion just because of that. But he's looking phenomenal as of right now. So I'm excited. I know he called out Max Holloway after the fight. Another fight that a lot of people are talking about besides Calvin Kattar is Zabit Magomed Sharipov. I don't know where he's been at. There was an injury or something, some health complications. I'm not really sure what his status is, but
It
I
is
feel
health
like
complications. He has some immune system issues, so I'm hoping he gets that figured out so we can see him back in action soon.
yeah. So those two fights, along with Calvin Kattar, I didn't even know that was in the picture. Spectacular fights for them. But the biggest difference that I seen in this fight in terms of Edison Barboza, he this was a fight where he moved down in weight division. He fought at featherweight, and when he was in the other weight class, he was known for being one of the fastest people in the division. This wasn't really the case with this fight. We saw the speed difference. We saw how fast Giga was and how phenomenal striking was. So I'm really excited for the guy. As you said, not really known before this, but I feel like he's known now.
Yeah, I mean, both guys had just tremendously high fight IQ. Like we expected, this entire fight took place on the feet, and we just saw two very high IQ fighters, fighting it out. We saw both guys keeping it at a distance. I just like Giga's style overall. He's cautious. He knows how to keep his distance, but he knows how to get on the inside when he needs to, land a kick or a punch to do some damage. So, like I said, relatively young in his UFC career. I think you said it's 7-0 now. The guys, I feel like as long as he can keep up with on the wrestling defense side, at least to the point where he can stuff a takedown or get back up if he does get taken down. I think this guy has a very, very bright future because as far as his stand up, I don't think there's many people his size that are going to give him a challenge. So the only threat I can see at the moment would be if someone can take him down and now grapple him maybe and take away his tools.
We did bring up Calvin Kattar. We did bring up Max Holloway. He called out Max Holloway after the fight, and I mentioned Zabit as well. So I don't really want to dwell into this because it's going to take a while, just talking about all those fights. But let me hear your picks on Max Holloway, Zabit, and Calvin Kattar. Do you think Giga is the man to defeat those individuals?
Cater, I think he beats. I feel like his level of kickboxing is a bit higher than Calvin Cater's boxing skills. The Max Holloway fight, I think, would be a real test for him. I feel like Max Holloway might just be a bit higher level just because he has the experience, he has the output, and that's the main thing, the output. Max Holloway can weaponize his output. He won't hit you hard, but he'll hit you a million times in that fight. And a lot of guys don't know how to handle that. Maybe the first 10, 20 shots you don't feel, but like after the 100th one, it's starting to piss you off a little bit, even though they're not necessarily hurting you individually. So yeah, at this moment now, I think that Max Holloway might beat Giga. I think that is the fight to make, at least from a fan's perspective. Giga is on his way to a title contention, like we said, maybe 2 fights at most away, I think, as long as no controversial decisions or anything plays out. I'm sorry, who's the third guy you had there?
The third one, and you're doing a great job by not dwelling in it. The third one is Zabit.
Zabit. Zabit, like I said, he's out on immune system issues, but I don't know. I feel like I would have to see them face to face. I feel like Zabit might be a little bit taller and longer. But we did see his conditioning fade away over in his last fight against Calvin Kattar, so that'll be interesting to see. But for skills wise, I feel like Zabit might be able to utilize his karate and keep the fight at a further distance. I feel like the karate style is a bit better for the distance striking than Gige's just kickboxing style. That's just my opinion. I haven't done too much of a breakdown, but quick thoughts off my mind. That's what comes to mind. How about you?
In terms of Max Holloway, I'd probably have to say Max Holloway just because of the experience. Max Holloway, you mentioned the volume is insane. With Zabit, I don't know. It's hard to say because Zabit, he's a phenomenal striker, but he does know how to wrestle very well as well. Even though that was weird, that was a weird phrase, but he does know how to wrestle well, and that might be the difference in the fight. With Calvin Kattar, after seeing him fight Max Holloway, what Max Holloway was able to do to him, I'm not gonna say I lost respect for him, but he just got dismantled in that fight, and I think Giga is going to be way too much for him. So I'll probably have to go with Giga in that fight. But I'm going to go with Max Holloway winning. I think I'm going to go with Zabit, and I think he defeats Calvin Kattar. Those are my picks.
You think Zabit beats Giga?
I think Zabit might beat Giga, yeah.
That's interesting. Hey, all 3 of those fights I think are amazing to set up.
I just don't know if you also mentioned Zabit's stamina. I don't know if that's going to hold up. But, Zabit has been looking kind of flawless until he gets tired. So, I mean, it's all those 3 matchups I feel like are exciting. And Giga Chikadze definitely made a name for himself. So it's okay for him to call out such names like that.
So, yeah, let's move on through the rest of the card. We had Brian Battle defeating Gilbert Urbina. These were the finalists for the Ultimate Fighter. Urbina started off amazing this fight. I actually thought he was about to get the finish in that first round. He's the 3rd brother that I believe has tried to get to win the championships at the Ultimate Fighter, but unfortunately he came short as well. Brian Battle had a great submission in the middle of the second round, so great performance and congrats to the new tough winner.
Yeah, as you said, Urbina came out strong. I thought he was going to get the job done, but Battle did come back. I feel like Urbina did slow down. He got tired. Battle did come back, and he got the submission, as you mentioned, in the second round, and bright future for him. But Urbina, he shouldn't put his head down. I feel like he has some things to work on, his stamina, his conditioning. But I feel like that was supposed to be his fight, and he just let it go. But great fight nevertheless.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe that was the nerves, maybe first time being in such a crowd. But he started off amazing, and like I said, I thought he almost got the job done.
Beating his ass in the beginning, bro. He was dominating in the beginning, and then the tide turned, and Battle was able to battle back. No pun intended.
Hey, this is what the Ultimate Fighter is all about, right? Who can stick it out through the end, through the grittiest of times. So, man, congrats to Brian Battle. Next up, we had bantamweight. We had Ricky Turcios defeating Brady Hindstand via split decision. Then we had a very interesting match, Kevin Lee versus Daniel Rodriguez. Rodriguez won via unanimous decision after 3 rounds. And I don't know. I have a lot of mixed opinions here. Like I mentioned last week, I have a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth for the way that Kevin Lee looked at himself relative to the rest of his peers. So I don't want to say I told you so, but like that's kind of what you get for overlooking the competition.
I think it's fair to say that Kevin Lee kind of embarrassed himself. It's no shame in saying that. Kevin Lee talked a big game and lost, but I don't know. What did you think of the fight itself, though?
Look, you have to take into consideration there was a opponent change 2 weeks out from the fight. That being said, if you're talking the game that Kevin Lee is saying and how you're the top 5 welterweight, a fight like that, like whether it's Sean Brady or whether it's Daniel Rodriguez, to you shouldn't matter if you think you're that much higher than the competition. You know what I mean? I feel like we've seen Kevin Lee's ego inflate like this before, and it's when it inflates this way that I can kind of feel like he's going to lose. I feel like the same thing happened with Tony Ferguson, and I'm trying to remember another fight that happened. Like he got ahead of himself where he already thought like, oh, I won this fight, and I feel like the cockiness kind of just makes him overthink his opponent, and I don't know. Like I said in the last podcast, I wasn't too thrilled about his attitude, and you can see how that potentially affected his performance.
Yeah, I always say this. I think that Kevin Lee and I feel like you agree with this. I feel like Kevin Lee has all the tools, but he's just not able to piece it together. I did have him winning round one. He came out of round one as I believe, minus 300 to win the fight. But then he got tired, and Rodriguez was able to. He got tired and he got sloppy, and Rodriguez was able to take round two and round three in my division, in my opinion. And I feel like Kevin Lee, now that he moved up in weight division, I feel like he's too small, and Rodriguez's weight was way too much for him. And I don't know. I don't know what's next for Kevin Lee. Dana White had some comments about Lee, possibly not being in the UFC much longer. He said that he's going to discuss it over his meeting on Tuesday or whatever that's supposed to mean. But Mike Perry also came out, and there's talk about him fighting Kevin Lee next. So I'm not going to give up on Kevin Lee. I think he's still young. I think he's eventually going to piece it together. I don't know how many fights that's going to take. I don't know if that's going to be in the UFC, but I don't know. Kevin Lee, but I would agree with you. He did embarrass himself. He should have never called himself a top welterweight. That's definitely not the case. And we were able to see that on Saturday night.
Look, he was 0-1 going into that fight at welterweight, so you can't be 0-1 and saying you're the best. But that's besides the point. Like you said, the ego's overly inflated. I did hear, obviously Dana was saying how they're going to figure out what's next for Kevin Lee, whether it's here or not here, was the quote, I believe. But in my opinion, I don't think the UFC should let go of Kevin Lee. He's still a star. He's still a big name. He's still a big asset. And he's still a big draw. Yeah, he's fighting beasts.
He's fighting savages. Like, if you look down his record, besides Daniel, I know Daniel Rodriguez is not the biggest name, but Daniel Rodriguez he's a savage as well. And he was bigger, and his striking was a lot better than Kevin. I feel like the only time Kevin had success was when he utilized his wrestling, which I feel like he didn't utilize enough. And I feel like that was the difference in his fight.
Yeah, like you said, he has all the tools. It's just a matter of how he pieces them together. The guy is a phenomenal wrestler. He's not a bad striker. I think I'm convinced it's his mental game. Something about his mentality is just not allowing him to piece it together. I thought when he went over to Faraz Sahabi's gym, I thought that was going to be a game changer, and we were going to see a completely different Kevin Lee, which we did see in the Gregor Gillespie fight. Phenomenal performance. But then after that, we kind of see a skid again. And what I think happened, I feel like, he when he switched to Faraz Sahabi's gym, like he got his head in the right place and everything. He got that big win, crazy win, and then his ego went back up. And instead of staying humble, as Khabib would say, be humble, brother, his ego got inflated again, and he started overlooking his opponents, and we are where we are.
I think that his ego was always the way that it is. It's just a person that he is. He's just like a cocky son of a bitch, and then he's always been like that. He had some success, and when he was having success, it was okay for him to talk like that. But now it's definitely not okay. And the thing about Faraz Sahabi, I know a lot of you bring it up, but Faraz Sahabi, he can't make everybody into George St. Pierre. I understand that Kevin Lee, people thought that he had all the tools, but there's only one George St. Pierre. And Faraz Sahabi had a true specimen, a true dedicated martial artist in George St. Pierre, and he was able to make something of him. And people shouldn't think that he could do that with every single person. And Kevin Lee, as you said, there's something lacking in his mental game. I would have to agree with you. But I don't know who could help him if it's not Faraz Sahabi.
I don't know. Yeah, I agree. If it's not Faraz, because like we said, Faraz Sahabi, one of the main things that guy is known for as a coach is his mental preparation, mental ability, that he gets his fighters in the zone for. So I don't know. Like you said, the guy's young. Maybe we can see a turnaround. I do think that Kevin Lee could, turn his career around and do well and get the ball rolling in the right direction. But I'm not convinced that he'll ever be a UFC champion at welterweight or at lightweight.
I think that ship has sailed a long time ago. I know when he was coming up, there was a lot of talk about that, but I really don't think so. And all this talk about him beating Khabib, beating Islam, like, absolutely not. You could barely take down Daniel Rodriguez. It's Kevin Lee is not who he thinks he is. I mean, I respect that he believes in himself like that. I don't think that he should put others down and be disrespectful towards other fighters. I don't agree with that, but he is good. I think he is good. I just feel like he can't piece it all together, and we could just keep saying that over and over and over. But Kevin Lee is just the way he is, and can't really do anything about that.
Yeah, don't want to make everything about Kevin Lee. Congratulations to Daniel Rodriguez, big win. I know we as the MMA community tend to do it a lot, where the bigger name, whether he wins or loses, we continue to talk about the bigger name, but the credit should be all given to Daniel Rodriguez here. 2-week replacement, and he beat a very big contender in welterweight and a big name. So hope to see him progress his career and see him back hope to see him back in the octagon real soon.
Yeah, not to not to just do exactly what you just mentioned, but let's talk about a little bit about the Mike Perry and Kevin Lee fight. I know that Daniel Rodriguez won, and congratulations to him. But before we move on to the next segment, who do you have in that fight? I think I'm leaning towards Lee in that fight. I don't know.
Again, I feel like it's one of those fights where I'd have to see the face-off to see the size difference. But I believe Kevin Lee as well. Mike Perry's a badass boxer, and he's a very gritty and dirty boxer. But if Kevin Lee can, mentally prepare the right way, I feel like he should have a very easy time getting Mike Perry to the ground, and then either ground and pound or just being able to submit Mike Perry from there. Mike Perry has been training in jiu-jitsu, obviously, more recently, and he has been improving from what we've seen. But Kevin Lee is a very good wrestler. He has a good, strong wrestling pedigree. I believe he was All-American, but even if not, he competed collegiately and did pretty well in his college career. I would have to say probably Kevin Lee. I would have to say, just because I feel like the striking, Mike Perry hits harder, but I feel like Kevin Lee might have a more diverse tool set with the kicks and the punches and everything. But yeah, I think the wrestling is going to be the biggest difference in that matchup.
I feel like if he loses to Mike Perry, I mean, the loser of that fight is going to get cut from the UFC because Mike Perry.
But why? Both guys are huge draws still. You can still match him up with plenty of people.
Yeah, but you have to look at the people that the UFC has been releasing lately. They've been releasing huge names, but if you're losing,
mostly older big names. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are still not.
Darren Stewart,
Kevin Lee, you can argue.
How old is the dentist?
The dentist, we'll get to that in a minute. The dentist wasn't great, but like, the dentist isn't a big name either. You know what I mean? Mike Perry is a name. Kevin Lee is a name, and whether they're winning or losing,
they don't give a fuck about names, bro. They release Paige Van Zandt. She's a huge name. Like, if you're losing and you're not able to compete with the best in the world, Dana White is gonna cut you from the UFC. Like, you can't have 5-6 losses in a row and feel like you're safe because you have a big name.
That's a fact.
So, I mean, like, I feel like if that fight happens, if Kevin Lee or
Mike Perry.
Yeah, Kevin Lee or Mike Perry, if that fight happens, I feel like the loser of the fight is definitely going to get cut from the UFC. I like both of them, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that's just the way it's going to go. But I'm going to have to side with Kevin Lee on that fight.
Prior to that, on the main card, we had a middleweight bout. Andre Petrosky defeated Michael Gilmore via 3rd-round KO. And then to start off the main card, the biggest upset of the evening, Gerald Meerschaert, a plus 450 underdog, defeated Mahmoud Muradov. This was insane. As many of you know, and probably the only reason you guys know, Gerald Meerschaert recently came off a huge KO loss to Khamzat Chimaev, pretty much a one punch done deal. He returned against another.
But he did win after that. He has a win after his loss to Chimaev. So this is his 2nd consecutive win.
Guys, I don't know if you've seen Muradov going into this fight. He was a huge favorite. The final odds, I think, were minus 630 favorite. The dude started off great. I thought he was going to get a finish. And then I don't know what the hell happened. Next thing you know, Gerald Meerschaert sneaking in a rear naked choke in the 2nd round, and he submits Muradov and ends like a 15-fight win streak or whatever the guy was on. It was insane. The biggest upset of the evening.
Yeah, Muradov was a huge favorite. And for good reason, he was dominating the fight until he got submitted in the 2nd round, I believe. And yes, he did come to the fight with the 14-fight win streak. Gerald Meerschaert, I mean, like, that heart is just insane. He knew that he was better on the ground, and I feel like Muradov slowed down a little bit, and Meerschaert was able to take his back and get the rear naked choke in. And good job for him. I don't know how many other fights he's gonna get lucky like that, and I am going to say it was kind of lucky that he got that finish, because Muradov was going off on him, and that chin that Gerald Meerschaert has is absolutely insane. But Muradov, honestly, I was really impressed with his performance, and I don't know, not to take anything away from Gerald Meerschaert, but I was kind of disappointed in him for losing that fight.
In Muradov, yeah. I mean, again, I feel like I'm upset just because of how big of a favor he was going into that fight. But hey, I guess that goes to say how crazy of knockout power Khamzat Chimaev has, because he was able to knock out Mearshart with one damn punch and it was lights out. But look, congrats to Gerald Mearshart. Glad that he's getting his career back on track. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him onto the podcast sometime soon. I know you're a big fan of his, John.
I am a big fan of his. Anyone that has the heart like that, anyone that could come back from a fight like that, anyone that's a huge underdog like that and is able to beat a guy from Uzbekistan, a beast, a guy with such phenomenal striking, I definitely would love to have him on the podcast.
All right, guys. On the prelims, we had Abdul Razak Al Hassan knocking out Alessio De Crisio. I mean, this was another crazy knockout. This fight only lasted 17 seconds. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, a judo grappling specialist, was able to knock out a great striking prospect. This was another one that I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe this just happened, especially as fast as it did. So huge win for Abdul Razak Al Hassan, another big underdog that got his hand raised.
Yeah, huge win for Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He was on a 3-fight losing streak prior to this. But the biggest thing that surprises me about Abdul Razak Al Hassan is that he came in as a judo practitioner. He's a judo fighter, and he has 11 wins in the UFC, and they're all by knockout, no submission. So it's crazy to see how he adapted to the sport and was able to become pretty decent striker. So great win for him. I'm a huge fan of his as well. So I definitely am looking forward to him continuing this winning streak.
To summarize the rest of the fights that took place on the prelim card, we had Wellington Turman defeating Sam Alvey via split decision. That's another loss for Sam Alvey. I believe it's like 4 or 5 in a row now, so he may be getting cut sometime soon. Yeah, Justin Jacoby knocked out Darren Stewart.
Before you move on, I just that just reminded me of a funny meme of Dana White basically cutting him from the UFC. It's time for him to get cut, bro. Sam Alvey, good, very, very tough guy, but it's time to pack your bags and go wherever you came from, man.
I agree. Tough, has a lot of heart, but nothing special as far as his MMA talents, I gotta say.
Definitely not.
But we also had Justin Jacoby taking on Darren Stewart, knocking out the Dentist in the first round. The Dentist, I believe he got cut, or he's about to get cut. He's another guy.
He got removed from the UFC rankings, so from the UFC roster. So yeah, he did get cut.
Yeah, I think he came in. I don't know if to say it was lucky or he was just fighting low level competition, but his first couple of fights in the UFC were, he had some nice highlight reel knockouts, and then just after that, he has not been performing well at all.
I'm really disappointed in him because I don't know if the audience know I'm in dentistry, so he's giving a bad name to my profession, my future profession. So no good for you, Mr. Dentist, man.
All right. Also on the card, we had JJ Aldrich defeating Vanessa DePopulis over 3 rounds, unanimous decision. Very one-sided fight. JJ Aldrich was able to dominate the entire fight pretty much. Vanessa did have some nice, she did try. She didn't completely give up in that fight, but I feel like JJ Aldrich was just too much for her. The IQ was too much. The experience was too much. And it was just an amazing performance for JJ Aldrich. Also, we had Jamal Emmers taking on Pat Sabatini. Sabatini came in as a plus 130 underdog and secured a really nice leg lock submission. Both of these guys had each other in a leg lock. It was very crazy to see. I wasn't sure which one was going to tap first, but Sabatini did end up getting more leverage and eventually pretty much ripping off the knee of Jamal Emmers. And to start off the evening, we had Mana Martinez defeating Guido Canetti. That was another great way to start off the evening. So I would say top to bottom, this was a pretty eventful card. Not necessarily the biggest names, but definitely an exciting card. Not one of those snoozer cards that we've seen recently where it's kind of everything going to decision. So it was a exciting way to spend a Saturday night.
Yeah, definitely a good card. But all the headlines, all the big MMA reporters were not at the UFC event. They were at the Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley fight. Huge headlines. I'm gonna let you start off. What were your impressions of the whole thing?
Sure. Let's break down, I guess, the build up to the fight itself, and then I guess what happened afterwards. So the build up to the fight, I thought, it was interesting. Jake Paul, I don't understand his game plan. So like he did this with Ben Askren, and now he's doing this with Woodley, and I'm sure he's going to do this with his next opponent. he takes a guy that's clearly, mismatch, whether it's a wrestler, whether the guy's retired or the guy's on a losing streak, whatever it is. The whole time they're building up to this press conference, he's like, yeah, Tyron Woodley was a world champion. He's a knockout artist. He's known for his knockout power. And then during the press conference, when you ask, how he thinks he's going to match up against Woodley, he says the complete opposite. Woodley hasn't knocked anyone else since 2016. And just completely flip flops and start talking shit about him. So it's weird. Like, he was also saying very good things about it. Yeah, but like, if you're hand selecting these guys, it's like you're literally saying A, and then when you're asked about it, you're saying B. Like, it's just complete opposite things. Like, it doesn't make sense. I get the marketing, the hype, the build up. You're trying to appeal to both sides of the audience, but I don't know. Weird, in my opinion.
Listen, I know you said hand selected, and I know you're not really too impressed by Jake Paul, but I'm not really impressed by the way he fights. But Tyron Woodley, he is a real step up in competition, and
he is.
He's a scary looking dude. He was UFC world champion. He's just not some scrub, and even if he's handpicked, he did have knockout power. I know he's on a skid as of late, but defeating someone like Tyron Woodley is absolutely insane for him. And the world did expect it. I was just about to say the world didn't expect it, but Jake Paul was a favorite in the fight. Tyron Woodley, honestly, I'm really disappointed in him because I don't know what's going on with him. Because, he started off slow. He said that he was feeling out Jake Paul, but then he began to turn it up. And I don't understand why he began to slow down. It was very frustrating to watch. Obviously, we're MMA fans. We want Tyron Woodley to win. You could say as much as you want that he doesn't represent the sport of MMA, but he kind of does.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the UFC world champion, and he should have won that fight. And now people are talking about the rematch.
So hold on before you get to the rematch.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
So one of the first things during the match itself that I noticed was the size mismatch, and I don't know what I feel like this similar thing happened with the Logan versus Mayweather fight and Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. In the ring, there was such a big size mismatch, I feel like, than what it looked like on the face-offs and the build-up for the fight. So that was the first thing that
I don't know. I don't know if it was to the extent of Mayweather and Logan Paul.
That was obviously
a lot bigger mismatch. But
still, yes. I feel like in the face-offs, I feel like there wasn't as big of a size difference as what it looked like.
I understand that there's a mismatch, but regardless of the mismatch, Tyron Woodley was the better fighter in the fight. He had all the tools, and what's so frustrating is that he doesn't
let his hands go.
He doesn't let his hands go. He's like, I don't know what he's scared of. Like, just let your hands go. You're a lot better than this kid. You're stronger than this kid. You have more experience. You're better everywhere than this kid. I just don't understand what he was doing. And he continues to do this fight after fight after fight. And I don't know. I think he should just like pack his bags, man. Like,
I understand where your criticism is coming from. I was actually a little bit more proud of Tyron that he let his hands go more than he has in his last few UFC fights. More than he has in his last few UFC fights. I feel like in his last few UFC fights, he didn't let his hands go at all. Here, when he was fighting Jake Paul, I feel like in the beginning, he was a little bit reserved. Then he started letting his hands go, and then he kind of became a little bit more reserved again. So not as much output as we would have liked to see, but I think it was clear that the shots that were landed, those shots that were connecting, the shots that were doing damage, they were all coming from Woodley's side for the most part. There were a couple of shots that Jake Paul landed, not going to take it away from him, but not the significant amount. Besides that, there was.
Listen, I don't care about any of that. This is a fight that Tyron Woodley had to win. There was no way Jake Paul was going to beat him. Like, if Jake Paul was not going to knock him out, like, just go for it. Just take this kid out. Like, he just embarrassed himself. I know that he wants to have a career as an analyst, all that stuff. He just kind of destroyed his name after that fight. I know he wants a rematch. I don't know when you want to get to that. I kind of want to get to that right now. I don't think he warrants a rematch. He had his chance. He blew it. And I think that's it. I feel like
I'm not as upset because I feel like it could have gone a lot worse for Woodley. You know what I mean? I feel like it's possible we could have had a Ben Askren situation, although unlikely, it was possible. And that was literally the worst case scenario for Tyron Woodley. I feel like the fight was close enough, and the marketing, I feel like one point Woodley made is that a rematch with Jake Paul and him would obviously build more numbers than a fight with Jake Paul and Fury, which is the fight that they want to get next. I agree. Obviously, Tyron Woodley is a bigger name than Tommy Fury, and if they were to do a rematch, the money would probably be a lot. They would gather a lot more bigger of an audience with a rematch than they would against a Tommy Fury fight. But I don't know. I mean, I honestly only tuned into that fight just to be able to talk about it here. I'm not the biggest celebrity boxing fan, I guess you can call it, or whatever you want to call what this is lately. I don't know.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I enjoyed. I'll tune in because just of the names. But Tyron Woodley just gets me so frustrated. Like, I don't even dislike Jake Paul. Like, if Jake Paul winning is not why I'm upset. I'm upset because Tyron Woodley just didn't let his hands go. He was scared of getting knocked out, though, and he was winning and parts of the fight. And like, I was watching with a group of people, and we were saying, "Oh wow, Tyron Woodley is picking it up. Like, this is done for Jake Paul." And then he slows down after that. So it's frustrating. But like Jake Paul, as I said, I am impressed with him, not with his fighting skills, but with his confidence, with his demeanor, the way he's carrying himself is very impressive for such a young kid with such little experience in boxing.
Yeah, say what you want about Jake Paul. I mean, what we've seen from him and Logan, they're able to do it. They're able to talk the talk and walk the walk under the spotlight. You know what I mean? Sold out crowd. He did not seem like he was intimidated or nervous by the amount of pressure at all. I feel like Jake Paul walked into there pretty much feeling as if this is something he's done his whole life. You know what I mean? Obviously, not his fight IQ isn't there, but as just the way he carried himself, the way he took in the energy of the crowd. And I thought it was interesting to see. And look, you got to give props where it's due. The guy has only been doing this for a couple of years. And I know he's obviously been a celebrity and had the spotlight growing up. But to be able to still perform the way that he did under the spotlight, under, like you said, almost no experience, it's something to give some props to.
Yeah, it definitely takes a very special person to do that. Like, it's you could say all this, you could talk all the shit you want about Jake Paul, but having that confidence, that so much confidence in yourself, is very unique, and you got to give it to him. Like, he's a savage in his own way. Do I want him to win? Honestly, I don't even mind if he wins, but like, I'm just more upset with, as I said, with Tyron Woodley's performance, and I just don't think he warrants a rematch after that performance.
So two things I wanted to point out in that fight. Firstly, there's a lot of controversy. Not that this would have changed the fight necessarily, the outcome overall, but there was a moment where Woodley landed a big, I believe it was a left hook, or yeah, I believe it was a left hook. He landed on Jake Paul, sending Jake Paul flying back and into the ropes. And to be honest, I didn't catch it initially, but when I was watching the rematch on Monday, you can see that Jake Paul, when he fell back, he grabbed one of the ropes and held onto it and, hooked it and prevented himself from falling down. And look, I feel like that should have been counted as a knockdown. Listening to a lot of people had to say about it, if there is anything holding you up from going down, it should be a standing 8 count. I'm not saying it should have been a knockout. I'm not saying that would have changed the dynamics of the fight, but at the very least, I feel like even though Tyron Woodley won that round, regardless, I feel like it would have been a little bit of a different. The way it affected Paul mentally, I feel like would have been a little bit different.
I mean, that's a valid point. I think that Jake Paul would still have won the fight, but that is a valid point. And maybe that would have given Tyron Woodley the confidence that he needed. But just punching him and seeing him fall into the ropes like that, I feel like that should give you enough confidence. No, like, you saw that you have the power to do that to him. You see that you're better than him. Why don't you just go all out and destroy him? It's frustrating.
Now let me ask: do you think Tyron Woodley gets the tattoo? I love Jake Paul.
That's another thing. Like, I know you and I spoke about this. Him agreeing to get it just makes me like even more frustrated with him. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I just don't get another man's name tattooed on your body. I understand you want the rematch, but like, have some pride, dude. Have some self-respect. Like, it's and also I saw some stuff about a rematch clause apparently that they had. So if there's a rematch clause, why do you need to get a tattoo of
the rematch clause? Was only if Jake Paul lost. It was only one-sided. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I don't know. I know you said that tattoos are removed. You can remove a tattoo today, but like, it's not really about that.
Well, Jake Paul put out some rules. He said it has to be somewhere where it's visible with your short and shirts on. It has to be permanent, and it was like
certain dimensions, like 3x2 or whatever. Yeah, it's not. I know that you could remove we have some great technology today, and you can remove tattoos, but like, it's more about the principle of putting a YouTube star's name on your body after you lose to him, after you're UFC world champion for several years. It's sad. And if they have a rematch, I don't even know who's gonna win. I don't know if Tyron Woodley is gonna turn it on. I feel like he's in it for the money.
I feel like Tyron Woodley would do better just because he's the first, I would say, 3 rounds in this fight. He started off a bit slow. Maybe it was the hesitancy of getting knocked out. But now that he's felt the power and tasted the power, I feel like the rematch should give him the confidence to come in there, not necessarily guns blazing, but letting his hands go from the start a bit more than he did in this fight.
I mean, I don't know. I said this already a bunch of times. I don't think he warrants a rematch. I think he just should retire, stop embarrassing the sport of MMA. It's so frustrating that he has all the tools and he can't beat a kid that has very little experience in boxing. Like you saw that Jake Paul sucks. Like he had nothing. He had nothing for Tyron Woodley, and like him beating him is sad.
So I don't know if you caught the fight before that, the women's fight with Amanda Serrano and Yamelith Mercado. Did you catch that fight?
I did not catch the fight. I only saw the Jake Paul fight.
So that was another great fight. Amanda Serrano, she's tough as hell, man. That girl has some skill, but Mexico's Yamelith Mercado, she's tough as hell too. She did not give up. She was standing there and was not ready to go down. But one thing I just want to point out on this fight. So Amanda Serrano had I believe it was her brother-in-law in the corner during that fight. And I just want to say, whatever that guy's name is, he's an asshole, just like a straight up asshole. In the middle of the fight, he's yelling across the corner so it's Puerto Rico versus Mexico, right? He's yelling in Spanish, cursing out the other corner, cursing out the other team. And like, I get if this was like two people in the audience talking shit to each other, but like when you're two teams in the ring, like that's so unprofessional and just so like it's not like, how do you do that? It's not sportsmanlike at all. Like, how do you just go and yelling, talking shit across the octagon from like your corner to the other corner? I feel like it was just so unwarranted.
And they show that on the broadcast of him yelling at the other corner.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I don't know Spanish, so I can't translate everything. But he was calling the other team "cabron," like "come on." And afterwards, he was saying how he was expecting the Mexican people to be tough and to bring the fight, and they weren't bringing the fight that they expected. Which, look, if that is the case, why are you being an asshole about it and just yelling it across? And like he tried to take some microphone time from Ariel and just to talk about it, and Ariel's kind of like, "Look, get out of here! Like, you don't deserve any of this mic time."
Did his sister-in-law at least win or no?
She won, yeah. Amanda Serrano won, and she won very dominant unanimous decision. But again, it's just so unsportsmanlike and unnecessary. I feel like someone like that should not be allowed to corner next time she fights. I just that rubbed me very, very wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch it, but I'm definitely gonna watch it after we get off this during our dinner where you promised me. But you mentioned Ariel Helwani. I thought he did a spectacular job. Ariel Helwani, Independent Helwani. I haven't been listening to all his past podcasts as of late, but he's doing a great job. I was kind of iffy with him leaving ESPN, but I don't know if it was a bad decision. I kind of like Independent Ariel Helwani.
Look, Helwani's the man. He is. I mean, I don't think it's a secret at all. He is an inspiration for you and I to start this podcast. The guy literally started from a podcast in his mom's basement to an AOL show to, basically to ESPN. And now he's basically on his own network at BT Sports. The guy has a bunch of different outlets. He's pretty much the face of MMA news. So it was great to finally see him do something.
Number one analyst for like 50 years.
Until we catch up. We're catching up slowly. So we're about to dethrone him soon.
That's a fact.
But look, he did great. It was his first time in the arena. It was his first time in the ring doing a broadcasting. He was basically the Joe Rogan of that event. He was doing the post-fight interviews and all that. And I thought he did a great job. I thought he was asking all the right questions as he always does with any interview. His energy is always at the right level. He gets all the people excited. So I'm always excited when Ariel's doing bigger, newer things because I know he's always taking the sport to the next level. So amazing job, Ariel. Congrats.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, Ariel Helwani, I know you listen to this all the time. We love you, huge fans of yours. But you also mentioned Joe Rogan, and I read that I know that you're a religious listener of his. You listen to every single podcast, which I think is absolutely insane. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. I heard that he has COVID, so I wish him the best. I hope he's not doing too bad, and I wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, he posted on Instagram saying that he felt like shit the first day or two, but he's doing better now. So hopefully the voice of the Octagon gets back soon. Anyone that listens to him knows he's really big on his health and his nutrition, his supplements, and just overall TRT. Just everything. So I'm sure he's over the hump. He said he's feeling better. So I'm sure elk meat, man. It's all in the elk meat and bear meat.
And saunas and the cryotherapy. guy.
Hey man, yeah, hope he's doing better. But that was a great weekend of events. Like we said, there was also PFL, LFA. We're obviously not going to get into all that just for the sake of time, but this past weekend was a great weekend of events. This weekend, though, we have another exciting main event. We have Derek Brunson taking on Darren Till. This will be a daytime card, guys, so make sure you tune in earlier. The prelims will begin at 1:30, and the main card will begin at 4 p.m. And for those that don't know, this is to give the European fans the ability to tune in and watch, because obviously when we have the evening fight cards here, it's like 3, 4 in the morning in the UK, which is where a lot of Darren Till fans are from. So because he's headlining the card, they want to make it an afternoon show so that the fans over in Europe are able to tune in and support their crazy boy Darren Till. I know you think Darren Till is a bit overhyped compared to the rest of the MMA community. I am a huge Darren Till fan. I think he's a crazy fuck. That has, very, very bright future in the UFC, in my opinion. But let me ask you, how do you think Brunson versus Till is going to go down?
So before I say anything, I'm not a fan of Darren Till. I do think he is a little bit overhyped. He was one of the biggest stars in the UFC in 2017. He was on a pretty long winning streak, defeating not the biggest names. I want to say he had a draw with Nicholas Dalby. He defeated Cerrone. He defeated Jason Ayari. He had a close fight with Stephen Thompson, but then he lost to Tyron Woodley, and that's when the tide started turning for him. After he lost to Tyron Woodley, he lost to Jorge Masvidal, which I was extremely surprised about. And he
to this day one of the most jaw-dropping knockouts. I remember we were out in Astoria watching it at some bar. It was a huge projector, and I was literally standing right there, and I'm just like, holy shit, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, so that happened. And then the fight after that with Kevin Gastelum, a very close fight. He won by split decision. The Kevin Gastelum that's been losing to everybody, and he just lost to Robert Whittaker. I mean, I do think he has a lot of potential, but, the momentum is not on his side right now. He's been losing a lot. I don't really know where his mental status is. I know that he's always joking around and stuff, but Derek Brunson, not the greatest striker, probably opposite fighters. Probably not really a good striker at all, to be honest, but he's on a 4-fight winning streak. He defeated Elias Teodoro, Ian Heinz, Edmund Shabazian, Kevin Holland, like huge names. So I feel like he's going to be able to take down Till, and that's going to be the difference in this fight. I'm not going to be surprised with either man winning this fight.
So traditionally, when it's a striker versus grappler, you and I, by default, we typically lean to the grappler, just because as most fans understand, the grappler is able to dictate if the fight stays standing up or if it goes down to the ground. But that being said, like you said, Derek Brunson doesn't really have great hands. He's predominantly depending on his wrestling. And Darren Till
Derek Brunson's striking is awful.
That's a better way to put it. Darren Till, on the other hand, he has some very, very crisp Muay Thai. I don't know. I'm a very big fan of his style. He's not just one of those traditional guys that holds his hands up just to block. Like, he kind of like, just the way he moves, it's very Muay Thai, and the way he applies it is different than other Muay Thai fighters have adapted to MMA. But I feel like Derek Brunson, although the wrestling is obviously going to be the difference, and the wrestling is what he's going to need to beat Darren Till, I have a feeling that Darren Till the striking is going to be too much. I think Darren Till should be able to put the lights out on Brunson. I know Brunson doesn't necessarily have a weak chin or anything, but if Darren Till is still who I thought he was, who we all thought he was, I feel like Derek Brunson should not be a hard fight for him, in my opinion. And maybe this is a bit out there, but in my opinion, I feel like Derek Brunson is like the gatekeeper at welterweight. If you can beat Derek Brunson, I feel like you're the real deal in the welterweight division. But I feel like if you're having a hard time beating him and you can't really solve the puzzle that is Derek Brunson, maybe you're not really an elite level welterweight at the UFC, and probably will not be doing too well.
I agree, but I feel like you have to give Derek Brunson a little bit of credit. He has some losses, but you have to look at who he's losing to. He lost to Israel Adesanya, he lost to Souza, he lost to Anderson Silva. Those are his last 3 losses. So I don't know if you could put too much stock into that, but I feel like, as I said, the wrestling is going to be the difference in this fight. Derek Brunson is older in age, so I don't know. I am high on Darren Till. His striking is without a doubt a lot better than Brunson's, and that might be a little bit too much for Brunson to handle. But just looking at the momentum, I feel like the momentum is on Brunson's side, and I feel like that's going to be the difference in the fight.
Yeah, it has been a while since we've seen Darren Till fight. I believe MSG was the last time he fought against Kelvin Gastelum. So almost, 2 years?
It's Darren Till?
Darren Till, yeah.
No, Darren Till's last fight was against Robert Whitaker, where he lost via decision in July of 2020.
That was an amazing fight.
Gastelum was in 2019.
I would watch Whitaker versus Darren Till 100 times. That fight was just insane. I know it wasn't a lot of action for those that watched it, but to see the high level striking, how they were both trying to like pull the feints and reactions out of one another, I thought was amazing to watch. And I can watch a fight like that 100 times.
I think that we're looking at a totally different Robert Whitaker, and I'm really excited for the fight with him and Israel Adesanya. I think it's going to go a little differently. I don't know if he's going to win, but I feel like it's not going to be as one-sided as the first fight was.
I agree, but I agree won't be as one-sided, but I still think Izzy will win pretty decisively. So, John, let's get into a bit of news. We have Conor and Nate Diaz going at it again. They've been beefing on Twitter as they do every, I want to say, couple of weeks. Did you see the action that was going back and forth?
To be honest, I caught some of it. I got the gist of it. Conor McGregor is talking shit. Nate Diaz is like, why are you talking shit when you have a broken leg? Typical Conor McGregor BS, him talking shit on Twitter. My stance on the fight. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I don't know. I'm not really too crazy about it. I know that you're really, really excited about the fight, so I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, I love watching the two of them go back and forth. I love when Nate Diaz goes at people, partially because half of his tweets don't make any sense. And
neither do Conor's.
I
read Conor's tweets and he's like, I feel like he's talking in code. Like, I don't understand anything he's talking about.
First of all, lately, anytime someone talks shit to him on Twitter, his response is, it's on site. Like, relax, Conor. So like you said, this whole thing started off with Conor
on site. What does that mean?
Meaning they're fighting on site. When he sees him, they're gonna fight when they see each other. Like,
see, that's something I wouldn't understand. I usually get the interpretations of Conor's tweets through the captions. Like people post something of Conor and they explain. I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about. Because I don't know, maybe I don't understand Irish lingo, but like I just don't understand either. I don't understand Nate Diaz at all either. But yes, continue.
So basically, Conor posted a picture of Nate Diaz, I guess, trying to get a trilogy. Nate Diaz tweets back like, "Dude, you're injured. What the hell are you talking? Like, what are you talking shit for?" And then they start going back and forth to each other. Nate says how Conor was scared of him, how Khabib was scared of him, how he slapped Khabib, and how Khabib finished Conor, and he would do even worse to Conor. And basically, it was a whole bunch of back and forth. But the funniest thing was at the end. Nate Diaz says, that means I'm the double, triple champ of all this shit. Fuck all you pussies. And I thought that was hilarious because if there's any way to summarize who Nate Diaz is, I feel like that tweet is perfect.
Yeah, sure. Nate Diaz is a character. I love him.
Look, I feel like the trilogy is something that's always there. I feel like as more time is passing, though, the hype is dying out on Conor. I believe it's 1-1. I know you believe it's 2-0 Nate. Look, it's a big draw fight, but I feel like Conor needs to get, I don't know. Conor is another one of those guys like Kevin Lee that needs to get his head straight. Conor hasn't been winning at all. Does he want to get his ass beat by Nate Diaz? Yeah, he'll make a lot of fucking money doing that, but I feel like Conor should get 1 or 2 wins and then have, whether it's a trilogy with Poirier, whether it's a trilogy with Diaz or whoever else he wants to have all these like fights and rematches.
I don't know. I feel like the fight with him and Nate Diaz is going to be a close fight, even right now.
Yeah.
Like we've seen Nate Diaz fight. Who did he fight last? Jorge Masvidal?
Leon.
Leon Edwards.
Well, both. Yeah, he fought Leon a couple of months ago, and before that he fought.
So he fought Leon Edwards and he fought Jorge Masvidal. And both of those fights, he did not look good. And Conor McGregor, like I know people are not going to like to hear this, but he's not really that good anymore. And I feel like they're going to be it's a good matchup. And I feel like it's going to be a competitive fight. It's going to be a bloody fight as their first 2 fights were. But I don't even know. I'm probably going to have to go with Nate Diaz because Conor is just tap machine.
Yeah, tap machine. And I don't like where he's at mentally anymore. I feel like everything at this point is just to satisfy his ego. And I feel like that's the wrong attitude to have to come into the fight game.
And he's coming off such a gruesome injury. Like, I think this is a sign for him to just stop. That's a really bad injury. And he has so much money already and he's losing. Like, what else is there for you to prove? You're already double champion in the UFC. you're just tarnishing your legacy. You're not going to beat these hungry warriors, you're not going to beat these kids anymore. Like, you once were a hungry kid just like them. Now you have money. Now you have everything. You have nothing really to fight for. I know that you love fighting, but like, I don't know. I don't think Conor has it anymore.
Look, I've been saying it since, what was it, 2015, 2016. When Conor walked away from MMA to do boxing, I said he should just focus on boxing, and him returning to MMA was going to be a mistake. I said it then. That was before the layoff. So now this switching to boxing and the layoff and everything that's happened since, it was just negatively impacting his career. Like I said, when you take time away from the sport, especially in your prime, the sport is going to continue to evolve whether or not you're keeping up. So we've seen the game surpass Conor. I think, obviously, hindsight 2020, I feel like it would have been better for him to stay out of the fight game, at least fighting. After that, after walking away from MMA, he could have still been involved one way or another, whether coaching, promoting, whatever it is. But I don't want to see Conor come back. I feel like you said, it would tarnish his legacy, and why do that? You had a great MMA legacy, and why deteriorate it? All right, guys, that was another round of Inside the Clinch. Thank you for joining us for round 38. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review wherever you listen to us. Share it with your friends. It'll really help us grow a lot. Shout out to all our listeners. I know we have audience from all around the map. We have some in Sweden. We have some fans over in Australia. We have some fans in Italy and France. So thank you guys for listening every week. Really means a lot to us. And as always, don't forget to engage with us on social media. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thank you guys. Catch you next week.